as clinical psychologists at the Lighthouse, we started conducting Achieving Best Evidence interviews about 18 months ago, and we've been working really closely with our police liaison officer colleagues who've been very supportive of the training. The police have been very keen on the sort of meeting of worlds between mental health and police, and they're wanting us to be as trauma informed as we can. So we try very hard to think about grounding young people in interview situations. So if they're very agitated or re-triggered understandably by the content of a very difficult interview, we'll try and notice that, think about what we can do to bring them back to the moment and help them feel safe and understood, and think carefully about what they need before the interview starts. We've been invited into interviews where there have been neurodiverse young people, so people affected by autism or ADHD or learning disabilities, and I think that's or very young children, and I think our sort of developmental training as psychologists has given us some tools to work often with registered intermediaries, sometimes not, but about thinking about how to structure the interview process to get the best possible evidential account for a young person. But also our preoccupation in the interview is to hold the young person or the child at the centre of what we do, so that's always our primary task. The intention behind involving mental health professionals or clinical psychologists in the interview process is to try and support their evidence giving and support the process of going through a criminal justice system. I think that the best that we can do is to work with the network before the interview to prepare the young person or the child as best they can, to demystify the process, but also to hold their emotional needs at the centre of it. So just to read the cues, to check that they're able, to check that they're in a place that they can give the interview as comfortably as they can. It automatically going to take them to a place that's very difficult because they're having to recount the worst things that have happened. What we try and do in our interviews is to go sequentially through what's happened as much as we can, because trauma affects memory, and when our memories are not organised in a sort of sequential way always, and sometimes they're held in the body or in quite visceral experiences. So our job as an interviewer is just to help signpost, and we use sort of post-it notes or pen and paper to help a young person or a child plot what's happened to them as easily as they can.